Dr. Meiraba T is presently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Manipur University, in the Department of Linguistics, Manipur University. In fact, regarding his work experience, in fact, he was an assistant professor, Center for Endangered Languages, Sikkim University. Of course, there are a lot of things to be read out, but I'm just skipping and I'm just giving the important points only about you. And also a senior resource person, SPPEL, Jawaharlal Nehru University Center for Linguistics, New Delhi. And also a guest faculty, Jawaharlal Nehru University Center for Linguistics, New Delhi. And research assistant, Jawaharlal Nehru University Center for Linguistics, New Delhi. And also in 2011, junior research fellow, Jawaharlal Nehru University Center for Linguistics, New Delhi. And regarding this, his thesis title also entitled is Prosodic Phonology in Meitei Long, of course, under the supervision of Professor Pramod Pandey, and from the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. And of course, there is also another thesis done in Meitei Long, a phonetic and a phonological study under the supervision of Professor Pramod Pandey. And now presently, actually, he's teaching, I think, phonetics, phonology, the science of speech sound in the Department of Linguistics, Manipur University. And some of his publications are tones in Meitei Long, a phonetic description, the phonological inventory of Magar, the sociolinguistics of Buzai in Sikkim, the phonological inventory of Magar, international phonology of Meitei Long, compounds and the tones in Meitei Long, and of course, unreleased codas and the tones in Meitei Long. Of course, he has a lot of skills in terms of computer skill, the space, wordpress, and LaTeX, Flex, and even the Pratt, of course, Linux, many things, actually, many things are with him. So, and other information also, UGC Junior Research Fellowship and UGC non-NEP Fellowship, of course. So, he is, very fluent in many other languages also, English, Hindi, Manipuri, etc. So, sir, I skipped some of the important, part from your, bio. For that, please excuse me, and the stage is yours, and I'm handing it over to you, sir. You can proceed your presentation, sir.
Thank you, Nanraj. Thank you for that, very elaborate and long introduction. Thank you, Mayam. Good evening. I believe most of us are in the
Good evening.
Oh, great. Let's try to do this as quickly and as sweetly as possible. I would rather take questions as and when it comes. Right, hanging bala erga di kudakta dum hangbirau. Dada dum kana mayama dum discuss tau se kino loirega kino tau yam kuina chang doi organa kona koi myam tana bada kisu kai belekte. We can take it on after whatever we're done with it. So this session, I believe we had a very interesting session with Bijen, right? He was talking about linguistics, basic linguistics, and terminology. So this session, we're going to discuss about phonetics and phonology, the science of speech sounds. So basically that's about what we're going to discuss. So speech, what is actually speech? What is speech? The speech is the most human characteristics and high speech. Speech sound. Sound. There are many other different sounds, right? But speech is one of our most human characteristics. So there are many features that we share with other beings in the animal kingdom, but it's only us humans who actually use speech coded in our speech to convey meaning to another. There are some animals who actually do that, but the kind of sophistication that we as humans have attained is not attained by any other race or any other being, any other being who are in the animal kingdom, right? Speech is one of the most highly skilled muscular activity that human beings have achieved. Right? Speech is not primary function. It's not a primary function for any of the organs or system that is involved in when we actually speak. Mechanism say my primary function say speech natte, right? Respiration we need our lungs, right? We need our nose, mouth, right? To eat, we need our teeth, right? Adubu, right? It's the coming together of all these different aspects or different organs which magi primary function oidavum mayam do work. Yeah, it is actually what all the organs usually come together for when we speak, right? So speech is rather secondary for all the organs that we use to speak for, right? And mayam problem yeah. So, and the very reason why voice is very emblematic to the speaker, right? I matam di kon aigi kon magi kon hene to matam da kon aisi katana mi bu masak tak pangame aigi manabi phone da number khang da amadagi phone toraga su aigi ma ipa yu phone tor matam da kon katana mibu recognize the ngame, right? We don't need to see that person. It's the voice of that individual of the speaker is enough for us to identify, right? So these are features which is how we say that speech is one of the most important characteristics that is assigned to human beings, which is what differentiates it from a lot of other beings, right? And so speech sound is one of the salient characteristics of what we call being a human being, right? So what is it that we use when we actually study speech? When we study speech as an object of study, right? Speech masamak as an object of study and say that science is known as phonetics. So phonetics is phonetics is the discipline that takes speech as a central domain. Object of study or in a speech, say object of or in a lauraga central domain or in a study toward discipline sibu phonetics hana haineva. So phonetics is the scientific study of all aspects of speech, right? All aspects of speech so when we study speech in terms of when we do a phonetic study we apply the scientific principles, right? The scientific principles the hypothesis formulation, observation, results, And we need to have a proper scientific grounding to make any statement if we are doing phonetics or phonology. Right? There are some tenets which actually guards phonetics, and we need to follow those principles, the scientific principle when we study phonetics as a discipline. So, and the most primary task of phonetics, I would say, is to provide an objective description of speech. Ana, among the hybrid, what I discussed right now before, and how speech is a very salient characteristic. Only the humans use it. It's one of those salient characteristics that defines the humanness of humans, right? So phonetics as a field of study, the primary task of it is, its objective is to give description to speech, right? So yeah. So what do we actually study when we study phonetics, right? When we do phonetics, right? When a speech sound say study to haimatam the karino study to we say, right? We take the speech sound to be a physical object which is definable, which is quantifiable. Aduga, these are the questions that we actually see questions when we discuss this. These are the primary questions that we try to discuss and analyze when we are doing a phonetic study. Phonetic study, phonetics tech, the primary question is, right, how are speech sounds made? Right, speech sounds say kumaina puthoi, right? How many different speech sounds do language use? In Prithivida, there are around 7,000 recognized languages around in the world. 7,000 languages like the world say the kari karamba sound used to be kontok lay, right? So the third element that we try to look at is that how does sound travel through the air? Sound na koina the air da koina sandoi, right? How is it registered by the air? ID kanato budura koina lokshali mina sound say amana produce the me amana lotion there's not going to be an exchange of information if we don't have a hearer. So how a hearer perceives ataba mina su kumaina tasali kumaina perceive tawi that is also part of phonetics, right? Aduga, how can we measure speech? Speech se koina quantify targa koina measure the way. So these are some of the objects of these are some of the questions that we study when we actually look at phonetics as a study of speech sounds, right? Huziki question by amdo can discuss the main question or the three aspects, the most three important aspects of the physical properties of speech. Speech ki physical property study taumatamda quite important aspect ahum lai se karin haimatamda production, propagation or transmission, perception or reception. Production haimatamda koina sound se kumaina produce tawi human namana sound se produce taumatamda kari changi kumaina puthoi. That's the element that aspect of the property of speech that we call it production. Koina putokpa kumaina measure toba ID koina identify speech sound se koina identify toba koina characterize toba kumaina group toba. These are what is studied in the production. propagation tova matamda transmission tova speech sound se kumaina sandoi kumaina sandoi habisina kumaina quantify tor study towe habisina is the second aspect of it. Ahum suba aspect, what we generally don't realize is speech as in a study tor matamda production to wasi khatanate lotion ba kumaina tasalli mi amana kumaina taraga karai digi kumaina receptawi kumaina comprehend tawi kumaina wahan thok kano to sound do taraga kumaina wahan thok to halli kari changi chisu it's also this is also one major element or major part of study that we conduct when we do phonetic studies. Mayam madum yariko.
Sir.
Okay, no problem. Then I'll continue. Okay, then so sigi aspect ahum se yegmatamda or these are the three main aspects when we study speech sounds, the three aspects which actually subdivides the whole field. Phonetics can be subdivided into fields which where we study production as the object of study, where we aduga propagation, kumaina propagatoi, kumaina sandoi. See, this can also be a subfield. The same way perception, kumaina tasali, kumaina lokshali, khonje kumaina phangi. I see this is also one aspect of the study of speech sounds. Right. The puthokko matamda khoidagi so the most important element that makes it very characteristics of humans say puthokko matamda karai di puthoe hai matamda akhoi articulators mayam se punchalaga puthoe articulators haibadi wa ngang konthok ama puthok matamda to produce a sound we have there are two types of articulators, the ones which move and the ones which do not move, but it's the combination uneasy combination move tawwa articulators ka move tawdaba static oina leba articulators ani combination se pullaga konthok mayam se puthoe move tawwa articulators mayam sina koi primary articulators haina khangne aduka move tawdaba mayam sina lengba yadaba mayam sina secondary articulators haina khangne figures ida udi this has both primary articulators to yaure secondary articulators to yaure other primary articulators oigidoi se I mayam katar question nama thamjage karam mana primary articulators oidoino karam mana secondary articulators oidoin. Okay, fine. So the basic difference between primary articulators and the secondary articulators is what I just mentioned now is that the articulators which move during the production of speech sounds are known as primary articulators, right? So if you actually see cursor se chatpase uragadi, we can actually bifurcate it here. Excuse me?
Hello, Puina Devi Gido Amta mic off the view. Hello, Puina Devi mic off the view.
Okay. Mayam si ubi ko ay cursor leng mo sen. No?
Cursor to the Udi.
Udi sir.
Udi sir, cursor leng mo di Udi.
Okay, so ay adum hajarage. Adu argadi kaitare leng ba yariba articulator si mayam sida figure say or representation of the organs of speech or the articulators mayam sida leng ba yari se makha tanga lower lip tagi horaga lower teeth tongue sigi part se khatane ba leng ba yari se right mathak ki yas bu leng ba ya bro leng ba ya de na Akoina cannot tell physically but cannot live matakia like when you see nose, upper teeth, alveolar ridge, hard palate, soft palate, and live mayam sidi laying by yadeva. Laying by yaribu sidi, lower lips, lower teeth, aduga, tongue. Lazy kataneva laying by yadisi.
Upper lip sir.
Upper lip na laying thingba yadabane. If you do not, if the upper lip na laying jaw na mathaka laktraga the upper lip na lower lip thingba yagadra.
Yaroja.
Aduna move to we are the makagi lower lip, lower teeth, aduga tongue sikataneba.
Tongue sikataneba.
Tongue. Excuse me?
Laiga makai kadang sini bayar.
Makai portion je kata ne bukan itu matam uji. Oh yeah. Aduna, aku ini sound je produce tahu matam da makai sigi group sigi leng bayaba, moi articulators sina active articulators hai ne khang nahi. Aduga mathaki leng daba gai mayam se sina secondary articulators hai na khangnai adubu speech sound produce tauge hai matam dadi ani primary articulator amaga secondary articulator amaga mapani kumaina punthali like what is the place of articulation and high ko yi kino tong matam da mathaki keno toriba mayam se secondary articulator or riba mayam siga makhagi lengba yariba primary articulator mayam sina ani sigi permutation combination or ani sina structure form to mafam do adubu place of articulation haina hairaga sounds classify to however
second ta hoga
yani
articulator se manipulate kariye ai kare
I consider articulators articulators se kari hai na hai gani I kano hoi language kehta re aina manipuri da haidok pangam da wa oibni na English to translate dum technical term da koi articulators hai na dum sinai
Place of articulator haragana wangang pham. Manner of articulator haraga wangang bigi mong mato adumay na textbook da di isa.
Place of articulation hai matam dadi place of articulation hai se ain hai jai sine place of articulation manner of articulation hai na la ibedo place of articulation do lakna bada articulator active articulator amanga passive articulator amanga kumaina combine tawi aduga ani do punsalagane place of articulation and haino se place of articulation is not a single entity, it's the combination of the passive the active articulator and a passive articulator coming together and forming a construction.
Wangang bagi increasing hai badi yaroidara.
Wangang bagi increasing se ID yeah adum yadi yai aduk wangang ba khatagi na tema idi speech organ yeah wangang bagi injury hai su dum yadi ya bazane maitelo nate na mu furak tana adugi ne main problem akoi main issue problem nate issue hai lai matam da sigi koi technical terms mayam se akoi na formalize tawraga laitaba right this is one
wangang phom kayak sing hai roi dro sir
kayat khata oiroi da manung ju yaw manung ju aidi akhoi wangang bo hawse nungchit air source tagi hawgadoi ne akhoi na hoji yeng bcd mathak ki keno akhoi gi larynx ki mathak ki khata ne wangang bo harak ma tam da changi bese keno lungs tagi hawe diaphragm se raise tawrani adudai lungs expand tawrani adu mayam do tawraga sida larynx to hangdoaga nungchit to mapandagi air pressure do manungga mapanga air pressure do difference laibanina adugi air pressure do equilibrium da maintain tawnaba nungchit che matchange right nungchit che change adu nungchit che chang kuma tamda how it's regulated again is koi muscle contract of gibasidi masagi mafam masai shape to the original shape to the amuk lakning eba aduna haina mana contract tawraga nungchit changhan gibado adu amuk keno tawre expand of thorok matamda lungs se ang pixel lak matamda manungda leramba nungchit mayam do amuk mapan thole apan nungchit to mapan thola karigina ha matamda mapangi air pressure na amuk low eraga keno manungi air pressure na amuk wangkhalakpagi. So this is the process of what we call breathing in and out. Aduna sigi keno mayam se loina sidna gadoribni na right diaphragm su yaurini lungs su yaurini aduga sigi source honjangiba breath to the ingressive aina haine coin high matamda inhale tawba sore manung da changhibagi nungchit air stream do aduda natte ba coin sound produce tawise akoina sound produce tawise sore hondorakpa air flow lung tegi tholakpa air flow sida thola aduga sigi active articulators ka passive articulators ka ani permutation combination do structure mayam do karai the form to adugi matungina sound se produce tawbone aduna sigi terminology sidi ai ozamayam su aduga si koi mayam punjalaga decide tawbudo aduga phamaga technical committee phamaga decide tawbudo yagadra ina khalli aina khanjabadi uji koi na ozanandra na CIIL da Guitar Institute amo in leirabnina initiative we abra amtraga koi manipur side gi dum ken tawraga sigi technical terms mayam se glossary oina linguistics se koi gi keno oina graduation level da like the master's level khatang laiba aduga mayam na khangba khitang watpa malai right and not a lot of people actually are aware of what linguistics or what we linguists study right aduna awareness khitang watpani na tigi material mayam sisu khitang I would rather say that it's a little underdeveloped because these are terms and glossaries and terms that should be made. I angang mayam da hange right yari degi hek manung chang hima tam da karino moi hard palate se ngau je palate ko we si bo khang de right koi sida keno tong matam sida aina hik sida labor diagram se discuss tong matam da when you have upper lips upper teeth adu hai bu pare yari alveolar ridge hai se karino hai bo khang da ba angang yam yawe sigi se aduna akoina talak per the soirira keno kadai do no ma there's some mismatch that is actually happening with akoi manipuri takwi bo jang atani adu uzamayam gisu kari bot lay adu mal do khanjal punjal laga akoi myam khanabi ai okay but moving on aduna sigi so the combination of the active articulators and the passive articulators is what is actually called the place of articulation and uzik ozamna habi gibdo adu ani dui combination duneba aduga manner of articulation asina to minor produce the we right see I will come back in next two slides will come to that position. Aduna Nasaigi ahum production, propagation, and perception though. Those are the three domains that we actually study in phonetics, gives rise to the three branches. Phonetics, the three branches to level, right? What is called the articulated phonetics. Articulated phonetics discusses the questions of how sounds are made. Sounds may am say kumai produce the way. Aduga, how do we identify sounds and how do we group them? Right. See the young main point ama in Chitar Brian Kale, I believe articulated phonetics na Tauri report say sounds kumaina produce the way do khatanate sounds kumaina group the way. Right. Individual level the amakatang levi abra adu sounds to give features mayam share torpa mayam dugi matungina moise group torga punjale. Right. That is what we actually, these are the questions that arises out of articulatory phonetics. Acoustic phonetics, how sounds propagate. Nasai aham production do kumaina sound production tawi kumaina sounds puntokse putoi haibana articulatory phonetics kumaina sound se propagate tawi kumaina sandokpa kumaina sandoi haibase is what falls under acoustic phonetics. And auditory phonetics is how nakungna kumaina tai sounds aduga hearer amana kumaina perceive tawi. Nasai question nama hangibedo kari paba amasung pabara, right? That matter of tone, reading comprehension the ngasai question number yaw given mangi kenadu da. So yeah, adu kumaina sounds koi kumaina perceive tawi kumaina tai akoi language tone lay na hai, right? Tone je ataba mi khatana khangi id tone je produce tawa mi duna perceive tawanga me hai never. But I have a counter example for it. Kenogi tom I theory thesis even matamda younger generation mayam dagi data collect matamda production test study mayam do tone do learn produce tawi adubu perception test taw matamda di tone se perceive tawangam dre. The younger generation is not able to perceive the tones. They used context to yenga word to my identify tower. Aduna, this is why I keep repeating phonetics, or when we are teaching anyone, matamda production to khatanate kumaina putho e du khatanate kumaina taga doino chisu yawn takadabane. Right. Perception say yaudragadi production tauragasu perception yaudragadi moi distinguish tawungam driver. Like the contrastive load that used to be on tone is usually getting lost. Si karigino is a factor lebe atopamayam adubu younger generation di moi perception test fail taureva. The younger generation is failing in perception test. Kumaina perceive tawi kumaina interpret tawi se kenodo individual sound do khatang putok matamda when we actually just play only one block of sound, they are not able to identify what tone is actually being produced. Aduna kenoto matamda section bi gadaw se khoi mayamna section gadaw se production do khadanate transmission is how we see the quantify the study in depth of wani adubu koina perceive the week koina tai haidu adu khangudu bo khangadabane shin. Okay. So this leads to actually the places of articulation plus manner of articulation. High discussed right. What is the most commonly, the most basic and most widely accepted theory for description of speech? And the speech sounds described all across the world, languages of the world. We use the symbols of the phonetic alphabet of the International Phonetic Alphabet. IPA haina use taraga Prithvi the world languages may say describe taunaba use taweva. So, but these are not just merely symbols. Like moingi manning the theory behind when we actually see the IPA chart is the combination of all those three, right? Production the point over, perception the point over, aduga acoustic the point over, adu representation the yaurakanda IPA haise semak paneva. Aduna IPA haise mayam changi yeminarsi. See the IPA and high you say Karino high matamda IPA is the International Phonetic Alphabets. Phonetic alphabet high vidi Karisinate high matamda alphabet system like English, the Roman alphabet high matamda one sound, one symbol correlation like table. A is a BAT bat, PAT pat, CAT cat. And representation the ama hekta a symbol duna use tawwa adubu sound konthok to the change tawre. But in systems like Devanagari or the IPA, we have one symbol and one sound. Symbol amagi one sound amakatang like neva. So the first symbol that you see in the IPA chart, the pulmonic chart, is pa. Pa I say pa gi representation say IPA the representation lakmatam the symbol magi sound say pa and like it cannot represent any other sound, right? But yeah, sigi chart sina kari represent toge high matam da sagi manner of articulation and high hibadon. Places of articulation ga, manner of articulation ga, say horizontal axis ka, vertical axis ka si defined away, right? Vertical, the horizontal axis what we call the places of articulation. Aduga vertical axis la ibisina manner of articulation hen chalewa. Ahoigi places of articulation se yengu matamda. How we say bilabial, labiodental, dental, alveolar haina uramganiva. China the theory behind it or the principle behind it is that hoina mapandagi manungrum da changaniva. Right? So in the production of bilabial sound hai matamda bi hedi ani labia ibidi lips ani bu punchalaga when the lower lip and the upper lip come together, the sounds produced are known as bilabial sounds, right? And labiodental sounds have gonna the lower lip and the lower teeth and your upper lips. Ani combination duna labiodental sound haiba. Dental sound haisina, yeah, teeth. Dental, we all know dental haidi ya haibani, yeah, duna dental sounds. Aduna passive active articulator amana passive articulator dental la tip of the tongue or the blade of the tongue na thengbu matamda produce tabu sound mayam dubu koina dental sound haina. Aduga the next group is what is known as alveolar sound. Alveolar sound haisina yari gi ridge, alveolar ridge manungi duda blade of the tongue and the alveolar ridge. The combination is what is known as alveolar sounds produced over. Adudagi sum hanjala talaga that we have post alveolar sounds, retroflex sounds. I know see the place of articulation. Dam yaurishina akoigi language study yaudre. Adubu we have Indo-Aryan languages mayam Hindi or Dravidian language mayam da yawi retroflex sana. Retroflex sounds in a tip of the tongue. Akoigi tongue do curl up tauraga produce the sound mayam sibu retroflex sounds and kangi. Right. Adudagi as the rest is basically we have palatal sound, palatal, right? Koigi hard palate the produce the sound mayam, aduna palatal sound kawi, the velar sound, the uvular sound, the pharyngeal sound, glottal sound, si mayam se lere. Aduga horizontal side tong yang matamda vertical side tong yang matamda koina plosive and high. Plosive high sina mawong karamba mawong da produce tawge. Right, mapam amalai kare place of articulation kadai the active articulator ka passive articulator wa meet tawina manner haisina karamba mawong da produce tawge plosive sounds haisina akoigi whole can say sound system se ani haina mainly ani haina khaidokpa yai right stop sounds haina koina produce taw matamda stop sounds produce the stage ahum thokna produce active articulator duga passive articulator duga hana contact stage amalerani contact tower matungda atang hold towerni adugi matungda release torpa explosion it's released with explosion so the name closes. Excuse me. So sounds that are produced in that way in the three stages which we have, contact, hold, and release are known as plosive sounds, and these are the groups of sounds which are handbook group to later. Aduga same stop ki moigi same process to the nasal release torok matamda hoigi nasal cavity they release torok kangu sina nasal sounds and high. Amagi plosive sina same mechanism do moigi same process to ahum do lejargasu moi mapan tholak matamda it's produced through the mouth. That is what is known as those are known as nasal sounds. Aduga the next main group of sounds is what is known as fricative sounds. Fricative sounds na friction yauna produce the word mayam sibu fricative sounds in hide. So instead of us discussing the whole IPA chart se discuss the wigi mohta ai keno ina koi Manipuri gi chart oina discuss the phagato male. same way koi ngasai IPA chart gi same principle lo follow tawraga akhoi gi Manipuri gi consonant chart se yengmu matamda we have what is known as plosive series to lere. The places of articulation are actually limited, right? We have material on the bilabials, alveolars, palatal, velar, aduga glottal places of articulation. Aduga manner of articulation dana plosive. Aduga plosive aspirate haisina an extra breath of air puff into pa ga khenabase sibu pa aina extra breath ama yauraga produce the work group of sounds are known as aspirate sounds, right? And we have affricates in a plosive ka fricative ka ani ga marak sida ani sibu punchalaga produce the sound mayam si affricate sounds ana aine aduga si sound mayam si ni metal on the consonant system the ladies, right? This is these are the sound that is there in the Manipuri consonant sounds, right? We have 5 places of articulation and 7 different manners of articulation. Manner of articulation taret tungana lay duga places of articulation manga lay sigi combination je punchalaga sound mayam se produce tobani mayam na ubiram ba yai sigi sound mayam se bracket aina thamil se bracket leriba sound mayam sina sina akoigi same huziki consonant chart to si aina sida akoigi mete mekta representation the pivani, right? But adubu the salient feature of metalon that we need to discuss is consonant groups di layer, right? Right, kok sam lai mit pa na chil til khou ngau thou wai yang hook pum later. These are the 15 consonants later. Adubu we have these are the group that we actually see in a consonant chart ya bracket ha kibo group tuna ga jha ra ba jha da gha and dha sigi sound mayam sina loan moina mapandagi lakpara adunatraga akoigi sound change the Europa sound adudadum Europa group ama mayam je punjalaga sina these are the group of sounds which we classify under as loan sounds and classify tawi adubu aduga same principle can also lairaga koigi di lonsum haina group amasu lay segment kangu group amasu lay lonsum maisina karino how you say what does it actually represent? How you say we will get a better understanding of it when we actually go to the next group the next slide. syllable. Hoyi language or the representation, the sound system, study of the sound system of our language of Manipuri becomes easier if we understand the notion of representational system when a labor say when it becomes easier for us to actually study if we understand the notion or the concept of syllable. Syllable, I say, syllable is an organizing principle of grouping segment. ID karamba segment na karamba segment ka leminaba yai. Adugi organized to dubu syllable haina. When a kanbumatam segment mayam Suzuki metilongi consonant sound mayam though it can occur anywhere haina kanmaneva. Right, but it is not as such. Any given language, some of the sequences, mayam word sound segment, mayam ugriva sound segment, mayam do karamba sequence the order tauge have say is governed by the principle of syllable. Syllable say kumaina form tauge have say kenutorga according to that is how different languages will formulate the sound system. Aduna syllable gi part yeng matamda when syllable haina syllable ditare the syllable say part when a khaido. In a syllable we need to have the primary thing. The obligatory part is obligatory yaudi yadaba port syllable the high say nucleus haiba. Nucleus say is usually a vowel or a diphthong. Diphthong natraga vowel na nucleus hoega part magi optional part mamang da yauba yaba aduntraga matung da yarakpa segment singsibu mamang da yarakpa mayam sina onset and high, right? Consonant or sequences of consonant at the beginning of a syllable. Apoi syllable gi mamang da nucleus ki mamang da labor put consonant sounds mamsibu onset and haina kangne aduga nucleus ki matung da labor kenosina coda haina kangne. So what is actually very akoi maitilongi kenato wagi representational system da hanadigi fazuna define taruga leram matamda. So this is how we see mongs in onset ka rhyme or rhymes in a nucleus ka coda ga pullaga semba. Nucleus aisina vowel element to the main part orga, that's the nucleus of a syllable. Aduga we have what precedes the nucleus is known as onset. Onset se amakhatang lebi ultraga onset se ani lebi. Same this is what is in haisna metilondani. Metilonda vowel gi mamangda consonant ani dagi hena laiba thingabiramoy. Right. Aduga ani suba ani laire hairaga su ani subado restricted sound khara khatang dagi hena thingabiramoy. Same principle coda. Coda da labor yariba sound mayam sisu restricted tawani. Right. So the sound in Manipuri gi inventory or in a label the all the sound segments which are possible in the onset position are as given. Adubu coda position the labor yaba sound mayam cd is only limited to this group. Plosive ne, nasal ne, approximate group. Right. These are the only two types of sounds which can actually exist in the coda position. The onset position dadi mayam labor whole inventory the labor ngami. Adubu coda position dadi we have a very limited set of sound which can occur in the coda position. Coda position the labor ngamba sound mayam dubuni akoi kenoto buda make the representational system the umatam the lonsum maina uriba kangudo. Aduna if we understand akhoi mete meki syllable formation ki principles understand tawragadi yeah it becomes easier to actually teach or even recognize sound haidi akhoi karamba group karamba word na mapandagi loan laino aduga karamba word na hanagi native vocabulary na leramba no habisisu syllable ki formation duna adum khangba ngambane yeah
acha kanam ta hang joge ba
yeah ani you
sir ekoi ki nucleus se nucleus se pic haina mention to bodi ani je khena gani ni ko sa
adum nucleus se koina peak haina high bise yeng matamda ngasagi koina element phonetics ki second branch habido acoustic haina yeng matamda di acoustic is acoustic chano se yeng matamda di frequency measure tawri yeng frequencies amplitude frequency mayam se sina physical aspect to measure tawri yeng matamda we can actually see it in graphical representation kano tawraga machine da hapchala yeng matamda sound se peak tawreba peak tawbse karino hai matamda each sound segment laibse moigi inherent loudness is what is called sonority of each segment laiba each segment se vowel mayam sina quite sonorous oi aduga plosive sagi plosive group to aduna quite least sonorous oi aduna akoini yeng matamda su found gani quite least sonorous oiba group ama lerani adudagi quite sonorous oiba group ama vowel group ama lerani right so for example syllable ama hek same asine adubu akoi gi language sina monosyllabic oibani syllable jina meaning meaning putok panina ila na ubangam bane quite sonorous part sina aiduna keno tor kaduna sound element sum yeng matamda peak tor eva sonority mogi sonority hierarchy do or the level of sonority do sum peak ta kholi me aduga amuk nucleus ta peak tor matungda coda da umtar eva adugi ne moina peak na sinaribs
aduna sir aina hangjaningi sinane akoina grama da peak ana ngasai nucleus oina tawdraga peak tawramnina khudam oina arabada example oina paw haile no ja paw haibesida akoigi onset lere pipa se paw haibesida peak ai khwaidi wangbani haida di ngasai nucleus ta aga ugaju oireju u haisina mu wangkhaleba adagi di akoi major ma on te ko sara ko je lam akoi di chumna sum adu hangna yam deep oina tamada paw haibesida usina akoi pick lane ba sar adu idadi ngasai pick lata di ani makhi akoina pick ni haibedi yadre sini da adu idi akoina grammar akoina
adu I can ta haijage so there are two schools physics adu gi competing to se paw haina au haina diphthong nen haibiri do
haja
au haigidi diphthong oi gidoine ba diphthong orgadi aina hujiki ai slide to haijage bido nucleus oina haib oi bi ari se a vowel or a diphthong right is found in the syllables core and functioning as the sonority peak adu diphthong oina lobire haire se bako hujiki keno se au se adu di solve to bra adu di
diphthong oina anotaba sir I je akoina hajarisina akoigi hujiki class up to 10 boki tanuba syllabus se machida akoi syllable si magi part si onset pick kodan lerani the pick ki matang si da sai nucleus oina tawraga di sir akoina aw haije akoina nucleus ni hai yare adubu najai pick oina khwaidagi pondok ta khwaidagi hauna taba phangi besaruk tu pick ni haina moina pisale adu idi hauna taba de aw haise ju usine na hau taramna pick si uni laga aga ngasagi pa jiga ani ji on set on the lock pagi phimo mo lak chela textbook da tamjallamna angang hingdadi aikoina maduda clearance ma changbam leba adu khatan clear to ya jagi
matang je kram da je matang yo da koi sai di thong du ju akain so ma ju bhawi Wrong, there is no question of Coda. Coda is consonant.
Yes.
Okay.
Ne Ozana sida
Okay.
Aw du kasar kaino adum
Aw masamak se
aw masamak se vowel ni na ma adum ko ini ba adu pau hai ba se ti ko da yaw di
Uza Meiraba is the awang level gi magi.
mane sa gi si wang mani na khoi ju ka ma kai gu matam da ko ngau re ba pa sina on jet oi gi ta di aw si pik oi da ne ba pau hai ba khon thok si dai si da ko da yaw de ba
diphthong ne na aw se diphthong ne na lower gadi Coda yaudare. Adubu, there is one more school. There is one more school, one more group which will group taumatamda metelonda diphthong leite aina haiba group amsu layeba. Karigino haiba matamda akoigi metelonda di V segment vowel ga segment se lemina yade. Sigi segment se moine keno taroga the language itself will use a mechanism to break this. The VV segment in lakmatamda. Adu oragadi karamba school na kenotawi. How much of phonetics and how much of phonology representational system script lakmatamda phonetics kayam hap kadoino phonology kayam hap kadoino haibedu di mayam changaga decide to gudaba pot neba. Aduna when ngasai ozana harak ko do pau sida di akoina du diphthong ne haragadi Coda yaudare peak adum ojagre animak to divide to ba yadre diphthong haragadi diphthong haragadi monophthong haragana vowel segment ama leiba diphthong haragana vowel segment ani leiba durationally v hena chatpa adubu moi keno diphthong and high adubu peak when consider tormatam the nucleus when consider tormatam the di V hena consider V hena vowel ama and consider togodom nate au haido sound segment ama oina pullaga consider togodaba.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Aduna peak kanoga onset ka kanoga like from nina every all akoina I syllables kayam hapam godam ne do top mayam do kino tong do mata syllables akoina type of syllables in machine makhan kaya le haibidu adu khangbai da ka tare v khatang akoi gi e thokpagi e gi blood e adusu word amount leine adun madi vowel khatang V segment to khatang later, right? Aduga me human or man. Adudi consonant amaga vowel amaga, right? Hujiki odana harpa hierarchy, lay hierarchy. E adusu diphthong in logo doira, right? Adu onset amalere duga onset amalere nucleus amalere. Aduga quok initially I say quok three when divide taumatamda C V C consonant vowel consonant adu ahanwe consonant tuna onset V duna nucleus aduga V amaduna C amaduna coda, right? Sibu adubu adu talaga CVC haiduna syllable ama same kare akoi gina monosyllabic language oi banina ko haiduna word ama dum same right adu same adu dagi maitelo da CC segment haina initially CC se karam segment lai be ai ai matam da wa natraga ya adu keno to ma tam da marakta ra ahum segment ahum zina karino hai matamda approximate or kaniba wa la ya ani ji katane kino dudal second cc lai or matamda second sound or bi ari si kwa lam maming leng gani kyam gai adudai hena yadabne wa ya ra champra cham aduga para aduna syllable gi formation se okay I know thing sai the high dona segment mayam layer what syllables the sound sequences mayam check point organized only high principles in a syllable I say syllable is the principle of formation or the organization of sound segments in sequencing of sound segments never aduna onset the lebe yaba sound say adum koina khanga lere right C segment lagasu what is the C1 what is the C2 I see you koina dum khandok yaba neba same way coda lebe yaba sound say which I dum share tawri pa ta ka ma na nga wa ya la si khatani coda lebe ngam ise atopa sound coda lebe ngam de mete ronda manipuri da sida atopa question and discuss adum tawnaba ya idum
Oza adam makasa thabiro oza gisi sagi pung mangal mitra ngada loiga da bunina
I
discussion
lagi sidagi hen
oh yeah discussion awa waina open to ai longja
aduna mayam discussion tawna
mayam ji ulwa mung siknei da wang ji bo ihan haniga letra bo tawisi bo mi phonetic phonology mi consonant sound ha mi bi si de yam interesting over kanone topic ni
aduna in haubuda haijagre biduni sound na bcd akoi gi produce to bad si puthok pasi khatana teba identity oina bo leiri neba ai bu khangba isabu identify to mangamba I see I gi same voice element sida dum che leba kenone mi amabu mi oi ba amabu identify to mangamba pot amabu oirimne aduna hujikandi yeah voice recognition naina yam kan tawna da ibse plus yeah can to roga hujiki google the can or money
was that
vocal high view and
was a voice recognition and high is me not of sana su kambangamba say a quick technique haitare a quick yum the hui loibase nungdang gari mayam thojalapada mapugi haitare gari si masa kambangamba gari bak sound the more the kang is in a kamaita no
I didn't say ID sound do moina kangi do moi magi habit to to rogale I in high say human the quite the most evolved form in animal kingdom the quite the most evolved I know lay atopa katar animal mayam gi laite hai benate ba whales ki mating call moi de to sang identify to bunga me khoi na pai bese clockwise pai bana meaning amalay anti clockwise pai bana meaning amalay aduge ha magi kanu digi mantungina aduna hojik kanu gi lockdown ki kanu tha ni muki mamang do rangoni australia da kanu ma ganu ma miron lo le na haibdo thengna biram bi aduna laite haibinate adi chimpanzees mayam kanu torga there are many experiments can parrot tenawana ngangba aduna ngangba adi moi set of vocabulary vocalization do ngamde haibinida aduna moina comprehend tawde haibinate sound kanu to mayam do moi gi supersonic hearing lay hai ne koi human gi de koi tabagi kanu capacity se limited ne right cows, dogs, they have hearing range to frequency do moina hen wang na tabangam ni adu hai bin
mayam hangbiyo matam ju aslap tore Sir, can you Mayambam Vijaya Sanu Habi?
Haibiba articulation gi makhanda primary haibonga secondary haibonga haibi gi do. Atu ki da primary do. Adu kitang sandong tak pirom sa.
Oh, primary se ai nang sai group to gi do. Lieng ba ya ba. Akoi articulator group ngai ye khidu da lieng ba ya ba kangu sine ba moina primary hai se. Primary se kaino lower lips si akoi na upper lip lieng ba ngam si to ne ba. Mana pusan mana di pusan mangam de ba. Ai na hai bi dong sai place of articulation hai ba se kanogi primary articulator ama yaurga secondary articulator ani si combination dune ba place of articulation and hai se. Auna primary articulator ngasai gi khoi si meite lon da ai hai rage khoi gi onset consonant or basically loina onset the labial ni bilabial hai na place of articulation hai matam da bi id ani labial id labia dagi lakpa ne bilabial sound hai se kai gino lower lip ka upper lip ta lower lip na upper lip ta thengaga produce the sound mayam sing sibu bilabial sound hai meite londa koi pa pha ma wa si mayam se bilabial sound ne ai alveolar sound hai matam da koi tip of the tongue lai gi matun sina alveolar ridge ta thengaga produce the sound ni koi meite londa yam lai ta tha cha sha sigi sound mayam si alveolar sound na akoi na produce to si su ketare alveolar sound tip of the tongue jina alveolar ridge sidas theng matam da produce to sound sibu alveolar sound aina thangnai palatal sound jina akoi gi back of the tongue aina hainai or lai gi portion se palate ki mapa da level lai se sina wangkhat laga produce the sound ne yeah hoina kentare wa haina produce to matam da wa haina konthok se puthok pa matam da ga haina puthok matam da lai je khitang mamang da leibne wa sina lai je mamang da leibne sina lai je maning da leibne.
Thank you, sir.
Same principle. Wheeler hai matam da back of the tongue hai na ai. Kay you know hai matam da places of koi articulator se koi ngasai gi lower lip, lower teeth, aduga tongue and tongue hai na chaw na pulap kon gi one ba. Tongue je amu we can further divide the tongue into 5 subparts. How we divide is tip of the tongue gi maton, blade of the tongue matun gi hek kenu to do blade and haine right aduga front of the tongue je blade to degi kitang maring handaraga na blade of the tongue adudagi mathang na what we call back of the tongue haina laire aduga adudagi hand maning lak matam da what we call root of the tongue haina ba ha sound je when produce to matam da when say back of the tongue or root of the tongue, not back of the tongue, root of the tongue is sinner. Aduna, so it's the combination of the primary articulators, or the organs in our mouth which can move in combination with the articulators of a mouth which do not move. The two of the permutation, the strictures from by the combination of the primary and the secondary articulators are what is known as places of articulation.
Yamnoare was a Meiraba Matamsu Loy Haina Loviare. Tagachari was a book.
Mayam cano later to dum canotong
money. Mozara Pau Conoblio.
Pau Conoblio Yani and Tana Bukisukai.
Masigi the Maptadi, Matan Swalda, Koigasigi, 6-day online course on teaching, testing, evaluation, the for Manipur language teacher of Navadiyagi Anishuba Numiki Roiba Session Haina Lobsabi Haina Kanji, Mayam Dikani Yatan Lobsari, Hayengi